In this video, I'm going to take you on a step-by-step journey on how to set up your Motion AI calendar. Now, there's probably many reasons why you chose Motion AI as your calendar app. Maybe your calendar is as crammed as a Coachella campsite, or your to-do list is as long as a Stanley Cup line at Target, or maybe your schedule is as crammed as a Taylor Swift era show. No matter the reason, I have gone through every single piece of information on the Motion website so that I can take those hours and condense it in this tutorial for you. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I am actually setting up my Motion here in real time. So go ahead, download your Motion, have your laptop ready, and then we're going to go ahead and start off by customizing our settings within Motion. I'm going to talk really, really fast. So feel free to just pause it, go ahead and take the actions that I'm doing, and then resume it as you go. So we're going to go ahead and start with the top right icon, which is the gear for our settings. And you're going to see the first thing on the left-hand side is calendars. So I went ahead and I linked up my iOS calendar for my personal calendar for my iPhone. And I also linked up my work email. So go ahead, take a minute and link up your calendars. Okay, so we're assuming you linked up your calendars. Now we get to the auto scheduling. I personally switched it over to the second one, which essentially means that when I'm on my iPhone, I can see all the Motion tasks within my iPhone on my calendar. I personally wanted that, but I believe it started off as the first one. You can go ahead and do that too, where you only see your Motion tasks in the Motion app. So totally up to you. And then I'll ask you to like display task names. I left it toggled on and asks about breaks as well. I personally need a break every couple hours. I know myself, I need water, I need food, I need to get a nice quick walk in. So I scheduled a 15-minute break every 2 hours, but go ahead and feel free to schedule this for whenever you need it. All right, now default view, I like to start my week on a Monday, and you can also change the theme over to light or dark. I just left it on as light for the purpose of the tutorial. And then you have your conference settings. So this is where you're going to go ahead and link up any of your Zoom accounts. So go ahead and take care of this. For time's sakes, I'm not going to go through all of this. All right, easy time zone. Put in your time zone. I'm in Phoenix. Okay, now schedule. This is where the real fun comes in, is you're going to tell Motion when do you want to work. And that's really important because that's when the tasks are going to get automatically scheduled. So go to your work hours, go ahead and hit here. And it's a little tricky at first, but what you're going to do is I put mine in from 9 to 11:30 and then 12:30 to 3. And that's because I need time to drop off my kids in the morning, pick them up in the afternoon, but I also need a lunch hour in there. But all you do is you click here and then you can drag it. And then if you accidentally click, you can delete it. So all you do is go in here and put as many blocks as you need for hours that you're actually going to dedicate to work. So again, you'll notice I did it in 2 chunks throughout the day, but I also gave myself a couple hours on Saturday morning because I usually work for a few hours on Saturday morning. So go ahead, take a moment and put in your work schedules on here and then save. Go ahead and hit save changes. And I highly recommend actually putting in the hours that you get deep work done. So don't just put an 8-hour workday when you know that you're going to take a 30-minute lunch or you're going to take breaks here and there, because otherwise it's going to schedule tasks during that time. Okay. The other three I left alone, so I really wouldn't worry about that. Okay. You also have notifications. Go ahead and check and uncheck what you want. I personally like meeting reminders because sometimes I just get so much into the zone that I forget that I have a meeting. So I left that one checked, but you can go ahead, read these, and decide which ones you want checked or unchecked for notifications. Okay. Then under desktop app and mobile app, this just gives you the opportunity to download those. So go ahead and download the desktop and the mobile apps if you have not done so already. Okay, integration. So this is a good and a bad thing about Motion is the integrations. It does well with your email accounts, but they use Zapier to connect with other apps. It's actually one of the cons or the negatives that I find with Motion. So if you use, say, a project management app like Asana, or you use ClickUp, which I have previously used in the past, or let's also say you use like a to-do list like Todoist or Things 3, none of these have native integration. So you would have to go ahead and sync it with Zapier. So the next cool thing about Motion is you can turn your email into a task, which I really like. But what you do is you click see how, and you can just save this, but it's tasks@usemotion.com. You just copy that. And what you can do is if you get an email, or let's just say you're on the go and you don't have the Motion app downloaded for whatever reason, you can actually send an email to this saying, like, they give an example, draft plan for team, high priority by next Tuesday, 30 minutes, and send it. And it will add that task to your Motion calendar. So it's really cool to always be able to add a task really quickly on the go. And then the last thing is booking. So you can book and schedule meetings within Motion. And this is the default message that comes up, like, are any of these times would any of these times work for you? So go ahead and look at that. If I left it alone, but if you want to, you can customize this and make it your own. So next we're going to go ahead and we're going to create our workspaces together. Okay, so I want you to think your workspaces as different departments or segments of your business or your personal life. So, for instance, if you're a larger company or even a small business, but you have like an HR department or you have a product line or sales or marketing, any of these divisions can be their own workspace. If you're more of like a solopreneur, like I am, I actually use these for different functions of my business to help keep everything more organized. So, let me show you how I do it. So, if you go down here on the left hand side, you'll see I broke it up between my website and my YouTube channel. Now, it's important to know that every workspace that you make, the statuses are going to apply to the entire workspace. So that's why you might want to divide things out. You can't, unfortunately, change statuses between projects. And if you're confused, don't worry. I was too, but I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like. So if I were to click on projects, and I go to my website and I have these different projects, what you can see is I can click here, go to my Kanban view, and you see these statuses where it says, things on my to-do list, things that are ready to write, writing in progress, WordPress, this is published. Those are my statuses. But let's say that I made this workspace, which is the website workspace. Let's say I made this website like my whole business, Samantha Brandon workspace, or I did Samantha Brandon website and YouTube. Well, these statuses might be a little bit different and not apply. So I actually created a different one called my YouTube channel. And if I go to Kanban, you can actually see my statuses. I haven't fixed them yet, but where I have my to-do list, and then I'm going to have videos that are ready, filming, editing, and publish. So that's why I broke it up into two different workspaces. So you really need to think about what kind of things that you need. But I'm going to go ahead. I actually have a new business that we're up and running. Me and my husband is more of a passion project, which is the House of Pages. So if you read a lot of books like we do, we're going to be doing a video podcast. Follow us here for more of that. So shameless plug. But I need to create my motion calendar for that business. So I'm going to do that real time with you. So go back up to settings. And then you can see this button that's called Add Workspace. Go ahead and add your workspace. So I'm going to do the House of Pages website. And then I'm also going to add the House of Pages YouTube channel. Okay. And we'll just start off that way. So when I click the House of Pages website, you're going to see an overview. You can delete it at any time if you need to. Go ahead and hit statuses. And this is how it is automatically. These are the default settings where you have a backlog, a to-do list, in progress, blocked, completed. So again, if I go to projects up here, I go to the House of Pages website and go to my Kanban view, there are those statuses, right? So I don't like those. They don't work very well for me. So I'm going to go back to settings and I am going to change these. So I am going to, instead of in progress, I'm going to say articles in writing. I'm going to change this one to articles ready. I'm going to change this one to like SEO optimization. And then you can even add them. And I'm going to do one that says published. And then I'm going to create one that's updating for my updates. Okay. And then you can go ahead and change these colors here. For time's sake, I'll let you mess around with that. Okay. So I can do that again for my YouTube and go to statuses, and I can change this to like filming. I can change this one to editing, this one to like post-production, analytics, anything like that. So do whatever it is you want that makes sense for you and for your business. And then you also have labels. So again, remember statuses are more of the workflow of a task. Like a task goes through these processes A, B, C, D. Here, my kids, that's me multitasking. And then you actually can assign labels. So for like my website, for instance, I might actually put a label of informational, transactional, and it's just a way to organize things. And then you have the last thing that you have is templates. Now, these templates are for your tasks or your projects. So I actually really like this because it makes it really quick to add tasks in the future. So go ahead, you can hit create task template. You put in the name. So I'll put article template. And this essentially is your task card, right? So you have all these normal functions here. So for instance, for this one, I might put like what the URL is, the published author. I might write like the search volume or the keyword difficulty, things like that, or the target keyword. But then I might want to add a checklist. So Motion used to have something called subtasks, but they recently changed this over to checklists. And what this is if you think about any task you may have. So in this instance, we're talking about writing an article. Well, there's actually a bunch of little tasks in between that have to be accomplished. So one of the things that I currently don't love about Motion is these subtasks or these little individual components aren't tasks in themselves. However, the reason why I've decided to switch back to Motion in the last month is because they are changing this, and an update is coming up this year where they're going to call them multi-stage tasks, to where you can make one task have a bunch of components. So I'm really looking forward to that feature, but it's not there yet. But what you can do is I can write checklist, and if you look right here, it kind of looks like a bullet, but it's with the check marks. This is where you add things that you can check off. So I can say, let's make sure the SEO score is over a certain thing, over 70. Let's make sure Grammarly is, over 95. Let's make sure it gets through a copyscape plagiarism. Unfortunately, a lot of people like to plagiarize these days, especially with AI, etc. So put whatever little different components you have in here. Now on the right-hand side, you're going to have auto scheduled. I would leave this on so that it can auto schedule on your calendar. Your status, you can put it wherever you want. So I'm going to leave this as to-do list because I don't want this to jump into an article is ready to write, etc. You can assign it to different teammates if you have more people on your team or like freelancers. Priority. The higher the priority, then Motion is going to know to schedule these first. So if you obviously put something as ASAP or high priority, it is going to schedule those things to be done first over something that's medium or low. So I like to just leave all my articles as medium. You can do a deadline. What was that? So you can do a start time and a deadline on there, but we won't do this for the template. Now, the duration, minimum chunk are two different things. So duration is how long you think it's going to take you for the entire task to be complete. So for this article, I would say it's going to take me about 3 hours per article. Now, a chunk is, well, how much time do you have on your calendar to work on it? So for instance, there may be some tasks where it's like, okay, this article is going to take me 3 hours to write, and I need to have 3 hours consecutively to work on. If you don't give me the 3 hours, I don't even want to work on this task. Or you could say, you know what, I can do it in chunks. I can do 15 minutes there. I can do half an hour there. I can do an hour there. This is not something that, it's something that can be divided up, right? So I like to leave mine as 15 minutes because for me, I can work on something pretty efficiently in 15 minutes, but you might want to set this to like a half an hour, 45 minutes. It really depends on the task that you're assigning. And then here's your labels. I just leave these alone because I'll change that in the individual task. Because remember, this is the template we're building. And then you can also choose the schedule. So do you only want to work on this during work hours? Do you want to do anytime, daytime, nighttime? And if you remember, if you want to change these settings, you can back in the settings that we talked about originally. Okay, so I'm going to go down here on the bottom left and put this as article template as the name and hit create template. Okay, so that is how we go ahead and create your workspace. Let's move on to the next section. Okay, so next we're going to go ahead and start creating our projects. But before we do that, I want to show you how Motion's project management system works. Essentially, what we have is you can create as many workspaces as you want, and under each workspace, you can create a project. So let's say that your workspace is your sales department, or your workspace may be a client if you run an agency. Then your projects would be any specific projects that you're working on within that different workspace. And under each project, you can have as many tasks as you need. So let's go ahead and create our first project. Okay, so let's go ahead and make your project. But first, I want to give you an overview of the dashboard. So at the top, you're going to have calendar, you're going to have projects, and you're going to have booking. So we're going to specifically go into projects. And over here, you'll see the workspaces that we created. So right here, I have the Samantha Brandon website, I have Samantha Brandon YouTube. And if you do the drop down on the character, now you can see the different projects within. So for me, because I have a website, I actually divide mine out. So you can see that my Samantha Brandon website, for instance, has like time management, AI transformation, digital transformation, things of those nature. And we're going to create one right now for this House of Pages business. So if you do the drop carrot, you can either add a project right here or you can add a project right here. And I'm, for the sake of time, just going to quickly do, let's see, book review articles. Whoops. And then I'll create the project. I'll add another project and I will do, let's say, book recommendations. Okay. So there are my projects. Now let's go ahead and learn tasks. But before we get into that, the reason why I wanted to show you this is when you click on a workspace up here, you can hit list or you can hit Kanban view. I like the Kanban. I don't know how you pronounce that, but I'm just going to say Kanban for now. And then you can also list things by projects or by tasks. So I personally leave it in Kanban and tasks. And now you can actually see all the statuses that we made in our workspaces right here. Now it's important to know that you can move these around. So I'm going to do that now. So to-do list and then articles that are ready is next. And then articles in writing, SEO optimization, published, and then updating. And you can actually create views. So I like this view. So I'm going to hit save view and I'm going to say Sam's view, save. And that way I can just go into that and see it this way right away. Okay. So now looking at our website, whoops, that was under the YouTube channel. So I'll go ahead and do this book reviews. And we'll do recommendations. Okay. And this is all good and it's under Sam's view. And then I can do the same. So again, the reason why the statuses are really important is because what I learned the hard way is that you cannot change your statuses between the different projects. So initially what I wanted to do was create a workspace of just the House of Pages, right? Like that's the business. And then I wanted the projects to be, okay, here's my website, here's my YouTube channel, here's my podcasting channel, here's my social media. And those would be individual projects. But what I found was that the statuses that you have tasks under are applicable for the whole workspace, right? So it made no sense that if I had a project and if I look at the Kanban view, if this wasn't book recommendations, if this was actually like the website, okay, these statuses would make sense. But then the YouTube channel, articles ready doesn't make sense. So really think about what statuses you want and group everything according to what you want with the status. It's one of the things I don't like about Motion. I wish that I could change the statuses per project. Okay, so at this point, hopefully you already have your workspaces all mapped out and then you have the projects underneath that. So now it's the fun part, creating the tasks. So let's go ahead and get into that. In order to add a task, you want to go into the project and the workspace that you want to add the task to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the House of Pages website. And remember, you can go ahead and change your view. So I like it in Kanban and I like it in tasks. And now I can hit add task right here on the right-hand side. So I add task. Now there's two ways I can do this. I can just go ahead and add everything in manually, or if you remember, we created a template, which makes it nice and easy. So on the top right corner, there we go, article template. So let's say I'm currently reading Crescent City for Annie Sarah J. Maas fans. City, book 3, article review. And then I can go ahead and just plug in anything that I need for that article review. I can change the status to, you know what, this is an article that is ready and I'm writing this. I'm going to leave my priority as medium. I'm going to start it today, but I don't want it due till Friday. You can also have the option to do a hard deadline. Now, a hard deadline is like this has to be done by Friday. So no matter what, Motion will make sure it happens before that deadline. But a soft deadline is like I like to call it is okay, if you don't get it done by Friday, it's just going to show up on Saturday or Monday's calendar, but it's going to be probably higher up on the priority since you missed your deadline. I always like to keep the warning on, and then you can change this, but this is all default from the settings that we had from the template. And we'll go ahead and create task. And now I wish when I created a task that it would just go away. It doesn't. It's there. Don't worry. And you can see on the left-hand side, it says task created. So go ahead and X out of it. And there it is. Now, if you notice, it wasn't assigned to a project. And that's because I added this task just under the workspace and not under here. So you can always go ahead and click here, toggle down. I'm going to say this is a book review. Okay. So once you get that done, you can move it now between the different tasks. So I can leave it under the to-do list, articles ready, articles in writing. And this is really great, especially if you have multiple team members, because maybe you may be in charge of it in articles and writing, but then maybe you have another teammate that does like SEO optimization or publishes it, and then you can push it to the next one. But what I personally do is when I'm done with an article, I know I have to update it maybe 6 months from now or a year from now. So what you can do is you can change the start date, and I'm going to change this to September. I'm going to say let's start at the 2nd, and the deadline will be that Friday. I won't put a hard deadline in, and I'm going to hit save task. And now what that does is if you looked up at the right, it says to be scheduled. And that's because Motion only schedules a month in advance. So when you go to your calendar, know that only a month's worth of work is going to be shown at once. And that could be a good thing and a bad thing. Motion does it just because it takes a lot of technology to move everything around, and it just doesn't make sense for the system to organize all of your tasks over the next year. But the negative to this is, well, maybe I'm planning a vacation in September and I want to see what my September calendar looks like. And you don't have a great way to see that. So that would be something that I'm not super, super excited about. But if you back out of here, you'll see right here, it says future. So that's there. Even though you can't see it on the calendar and it's not scheduled on the calendar, you can go back into list view and you can sort it by deadline. So then you can see a list of everything that's in September. So that'll give you at least an idea of everything you have slated for that month. You just won't see it on the actual calendar. So now that we go back into Kanban, I'm going to change this back to today. So you can just go ahead and hit today. And we're going to have this due, this week, and save it. Okay. And I'm going to move this back over to article and writing. Now, if you go over to calendar, there it is. Crescent City book article review, and it's right there. And if you notice, because of those chunks that we chose, it automatically put it into chunks that were available for me. So if you look right here, the way it happened is it looks like I'm finishing this article from noon to like 1:30-ish. Yeah. Or 12:30 to 1:30, and then that article should be done. And then it actually puts in another block of an hour for this. But if you notice, there's a weird block here and then another 15-minute section. And that's because if you remember, I asked the system to give me breaks. So every 2 hours, I want a 15-minute break. And so then it just did 15 minutes here and then the rest for Wednesday. So keep in mind those settings because that's how Motion is going to schedule everything. All right, guys, we are almost done. We're just going to quickly go over events and then do some recurring tasks and events, and then we're ready to start our day. Okay, so as you can see here, this is now our calendar view, and there's a couple of different things I want to point out. So right here, we have the articles or the tasks that we put in, which is kind of like the whitish color. But then if you notice in the red, we have block for business lunch, meeting with client. And what this is these are events that I put in my Google Calendar or my iOS calendar. And these are events, which means that they cannot be moved. So for instance, if I have a lunch, obviously I don't want an event to push the lunch back because the lunch is happening no matter what between 12 and 1, or a meeting is obviously taking place between whatever time it was scheduled at. So it's really great because what Motion will do is when something's in there as an event and you add it to your calendar, then whenever you have an event, the tasks will move around the event. So that's really, really great. Now, the other thing is, can you create events and can you create tasks? Well, here's what you can do is you can go in here and you can just kind of highlight any time in your calendar and you can add an event or a task directly from the calendar. So I can say, okay, from this time, I have lunch break with coworkers. And I'm going to leave this as an event and not as a task so that it doesn't move. I'll leave it for this half an hour. I can add descriptions. I can add location. I can make it busy, etc. So really, really cool. And also I want to show you the repeat option. So if you have anything that's ever occurring, so let's say that you always have an HR meeting or a team meeting that takes place every single Wednesday from 12 to 1. So let's say that this is always meeting. I can actually hit repeat and does not repeat. I click this and I can change weekly on Wednesday. And you can also add travel time, which I really love. So maybe the meeting is only like a half hour long or an hour long, but you have to drive to get there. You can also add travel time of 15 minutes. So I'll show you what this looks like and I'll just say before and after. And then we're going to go ahead and hit create. And I'll show you what to look at. But there it is. So we see it Wednesday. And then if I go to next week, there's the lunch break. So it is recurring every single Wednesday. So lastly, let me show you how to create a recurring task. So if we go into the House of Pages and let's say I always have to do, I don't know, an update. So I can go ahead and add a task. You can tell this is something that I don't often use, to be honest, but let's say it's pick, or maybe it's analyze my Google let's see, Google Analytics assessment. Let's say I do that every single Monday and it's a task that I need to do. Or it could be something like checking my email. That's actually a better one. Okay, let's go ahead and check my email. We're going to do that every single morning or afternoon for 30 minutes. I can hit recurring task. Whoops, right here, recurring task. And we can do daily and we can do it on weekdays or we can do once a week. And there we go. So I'm going to change it to daily and Monday through Friday. Perfect. I'm going to say 30 minutes. And yeah, I like it. And you can actually schedule it too, which is really nice. So you can hit the custom button. And let's say that I actually want to do this. Let's see, ideal start time. Let's say I want to do it right at 2:30 in the afternoon. And then go through all emails. There we go. Okay. We're going to go ahead and hit create task. Now I'm going to go to my calendar to show you what that looks like. Bam, there it is. So it popped up right there, checking email, checking email, checking email. Now it is a recurring task that shows every single day. So if you have things that you do every single day, whether it's checking your email, checking your analytics or whatnot, you can schedule that in and it'll go in there for you as a recurring task. Okay, so now hopefully you've spent, a few hours, maybe even a couple of days completely adding all your workspaces, your projects, your tasks, and everything that you get done within a week or an individual day. And now it's time to actually start your day. So let's see what that looks like in motion. Okay, now we have woken up, our day is planned, and we're ready to start our day. How do we actually complete tasks as we go? Now, I thought this was actually way more trickier than it should have been. So, hopefully, this spares you a lot of frustration like it did me. But what you do is when you see checking email, so today it's the end of the day, I need to check my email. If you highlight over it, then you'll see those three little dots, and that's how you move things and complete things. So, if you click those little dots, you can either start the task now and what it'll do is say, how long are you going to work on this? And you can click that if you'd like. Or you can go ahead and say, add time to the task if you want to add more time. If you want to do it later, you can do that so that it pushes it later. So if I hit do later, I can actually change it to an hour, 2 hours, or hey, I need you just to move this tomorrow. There's no way I'm catching up or going to be able to work on this right now, right? Or if you need to do something right now, so like let's say that your calendar is this. So let's say today is Tuesday and it tells me to work on this item first, but I actually don't want to work on that item. I want to work on this task down here. What I can do is hit those three little letters and I can say, do ASAP. And then that way it'll actually push it to the front and then I can go ahead and begin starting that. So other than that, those are going to be the big things that you're going to use. But when you're done, you actually just complete it. So just hit this little check mark and bam, now it says that it's completed and you're good to go. Okay. So then the last thing that you might need to do is uncomplete a task. So the way that you do this is you simply just go into here and right here, it'll say auto scheduled or it might say complete. You'll just right click up there and you'll go ahead and change it from complete to auto scheduled. And that concludes this Motion AI tutorial. Go ahead and drop a comment. I'd love to hear your experience with Motion. And if you liked this information from this video, please go ahead and like it as it really helps boost my channel. Again, my name is Sam, and I'm on a mission to help empower entrepreneurs and small business owners with digital and AI tech to help automate your business processes. We're really in a new phase. We're really in a new stage of technology, and it can be really confusing to navigate through all the noise and the clutter. So if you're looking for more insights and strategies, go ahead and subscribe to my channel.